Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I'm joined here by Jake Circus of the Jake Circus podcast, and this is the divisional round preview show. Who day? Yeah, there we go. All right, so we keep doing shows because the Bengals keep winning. What is that? 9 in a row now.
Nine
So
in a row, which is the officially the longest winning streak in franchise history, including playoffs. So nine in a row for the boys in stripes.
yeah, and I say this on the recaps, but I have like 50 jerseys, but I wore my Delta O'Neal jersey to channel the Bengals back in when we played Cleveland. After Cleveland, I did it for the Carolina game, and they won, and I kept wearing the same jersey. And then we got to 3, 4, 5. I haven't worn another jersey since, so I'm doing my karma part by wearing the Delta O'Neal each and every week, which is Von Bell's number. It's a Delta O'Neal jersey though. So, but I'm not switching jerseys because I want to ride that one. I'll bring that to the Super Bowl with me, and you'll sit there and say, "God, all the expensive on-field jerseys you have, and you bring this replica heat transfer from 20 years ago." Yeah, if that's the mojo we need, I'm willing to
Who's
do
this?
that for this team.
Who's
So,
this old guy in a 30-year-old jersey? Is what a
oh
bunch
yeah.
of the kids are saying.
So well, I wore Corey Dillon to the Super Bowl last year. I have a real Corey Dillon jersey, and my most expensive jersey, but it didn't bring us the win, so I wouldn't be bringing that one this year. So, all right, we'll do what we usually do. We're going to preview. We're going to cover some of the news, the injuries. We'll do what we're not feeling good about, things we're feeling good about. I've also done a little section because we're getting down to the nitty gritty where anybody could win these games. So I've got like a little wild card because there are some wild card factors that are going to play in on who's going to win, and then we'll do our predictions. But before we get started, you weren't part of the recap, so go ahead and tell us what your thoughts were on the on Sam Hubbard and his amazing run into the record books.
Yeah, I mean, right after the game, there's that sense of relief where you're just we won, want to know. That's all that matters because we talked about it last week. You're not impressing a committee. There's no committee to really look good for at this point in the year. You're not trying to impress anybody. You're just trying to advance week after week, and that's what the Bengals did, right?
Yeah.
It was ugly. I figured it'd be ugly. Our conversation last week was, well, if the Bengals turn it over, if they make a silly mistake, this is going to be a tie game in the fourth quarter, and we're going to be like, how the fuck did we get there? And that's exactly what happened, pretty much to a T. It was like, how is this game close? A couple of small high variance things really didn't go their way, and then oh, Ravens lead at halftime, and oh, the Ravens are at the 1 yard line going for a full touchdown lead, and here comes Logan Wilson, or here comes Tyler Huntley trying to dunk on Logan Wilson from 2 yards out,
Right.
which was idiotic. I've always said this, that I hate when quarterbacks try to go over the top. I don't think it really ever I can't say it never works because Trevor Lawrence did it 24 hours before Huntley tried to do it, and
Right.
it worked for him. But Lawrence is 6'5" and 230, and Tyler Huntley is 6'0" and under 200 pounds. But it normally doesn't work, and you really shouldn't ever try to go over the top. And that's not going to happen every time, but it happened, and Hubbard
Yeah. Well,
certainly made the best of it.
Trevor Lawrence was from the one after Joey Bosa. They
Trevor
moved
Lawrence was from like the half-inch line. Oh
right.
no, sorry, it was from the one because
It
of
was
the
an
penalty
extra point,
before. Yeah,
but it
so it
was
was
from
from
the
the one.
one, and the play was designed for him to go low. He decided on his own to go high. So all the offensive
Huntley or Lawrence?
Lawrence. So he
Okay.
decided to go low, to go high. The play was designed low, and the whole defense went low. So that's why you saw him, and he's also a lot taller, but he just sticks that bear paw out with the ball, and he's already over the line. Huntley, even extending, was still a yard short. So it was a bad call by Huntley. I'm sure he was influenced though by seeing that the night before and
Well,
think,
I'll go one better. I think there's no way John Harbaugh told him to go over the top. I don't think there is no universe where John Harbaugh would tell his 6'0" quarterback to go over the top.
yeah.
Um, that's just incredibly dumb. But Harbaugh's red zone play calling has been pretty bad this year. They've been a bad red zone team, even with Lamar. And they've made a lot of weird mistakes, and Harbaugh's kind of gotten a lot of blame for it. I don't think Harbaugh should get most of the blame for that game, But there's some discussions to have about him, and he hasn't really won anything in like 10 years, other than I think he won Coach of the Year in 2019 when they were like so easily the best team in the conference, and then lost their first playoff game. So
Right.
there's different conversations to have about John Harbaugh, but I think the Ravens just they kind of outplayed us. I mean, they really did. I think the Bengals snuck out with one, but that's how it goes in those situations. You lose two linemen after already losing one, and losing Kappa is huge. Then you lose your left tackle. We can say a lot about Jonah and how maybe he's not that good anymore, or never really was that good, but he's your starting left tackle who's played
Right.
400 500 snaps this year, and that's really hard to replace, especially with who they have behind him.
Yeah, well, let's jump right in there on the bad, because that's one of my things is obviously our O-line injuries. I mean, obviously Collins has been gone for a few weeks now, and then we also have, obviously no Kappa, he didn't practice, and now no Jonah hasn't practiced the last 2 days. Those are the three guys, and Trey Flowers hasn't practiced either. We didn't have him last week, so I don't know if we're going to have him this week, but clearly no Kappa. I was hoping to have Kappa back this week. They're both listed. They're both day to day, but that doesn't mean we're going to have them. I haven't. One person on Twitter said that Kappa's already been ruled out, but I haven't read anything official. That's just what I saw on Twitter. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love to have Kappa there, but
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not looking
he's
like he's going
not.
to play.
No, he's not gonna play. I mean, it's wishful thinking to think that he'll be back if they advance next week. But we don't need to talk about that. We're on to Buffalo, and unfortunately, Alex Kappa most likely will not be with us.
Yeah, so that's it. So I mean, that's one of my biggest concerns is the fact that we have, we're missing three starting offensive linemen. So, that's Joe Burrow's not going to have as much time. Now, on the flip side, we face the hardest defense we were going to face, I think, in the Ravens. They know how to play us. They're tough. I think the next toughest defense would be the Niners, and if we see them, it'll be the Super Bowl. So, I don't. While the Bills have a good defense on paper, they're not the Ravens' defense. So I know I think they're top 5 against the run, but I think a lot of that has to do with earlier in the year. And I know they're middle of the road on pass protection, especially with no Micah Hyde and now no DeMar. So I
I
mean,
mean, th- this is how it is. It's just, I mean, we don't need to make these narratives about what it is and what it's not. This defense was top 5 with Von Miller. That's just who they were. They were an elite defense with Von Miller. They are not that without Von Miller, and certainly without Micah Hyde. But they've been playing without Micah Hyde for the whole year since Von Miller went out. I don't have the exact numbers next to me, but their efficiency against passes has dropped. Of course, their efficiency against the run has dropped. I mean, this is a guy who was in contention, who would have been in contention for the defensive player of the year, where he played 11 games.
right.
He still leads the team in pressures, and he's played 4 less games than any other pass rusher on the team that qualifies for that mark. Next is Rousseau, and third is Tremaine Edmonds, who isn't even, or sorry. Von Miller's still 1 in pressures. Rousseau is second. Ed Oliver's third, and Daquan Jones is fourth. So those other 3 guys are still very good. And the matchup to look at is the interior pressure, because Oliver and Daquan Jones, I think, are the 2 best interior pass rushing tandem in the league. That's still going to be there. But we have our center, we have Volson. So we're not completely outmatched on the interior, but on the outside, with Jackson Carman, I think is going to play left tackle. And then Adeniji looks to be the right tackle, most likely. That's when we're going to get Rousseau. We're going to get Epinesa. They're going to bring Matt Milano. They're going to bring Shaq Lawson on the edge a couple times too. So they go pretty deep, but I would rather face a team that's really deep without a star than facing Von Miller. And we saw what Aaron Donald did, and we saw what Myles Garrett does every year to us. We see what TJ Watt does to us every year.
Right.
It's kind of why the Bengals have had a little bit of more success, I think, in the past 2 years against Baltimore, is because they haven't had a star pass rusher. And the times where we do start to struggle against Baltimore is when, here comes Odafe Oweh, and he's really living up to his first round tag, and That stretch where Calais Campbell was like an all-pro. That was
Right.
when Baltimore really got to us. But you know, like you said, I think Baltimore is the best defense in the league with full strength with Roquan Smith. Since they got Roquan Smith, they've been the second best defense in the league in terms of EPA per play. That was with Marcus Peters missing time. That was with Marcus Williams missing time. That was with a hobbled Marlon Humphrey, who I think is an all-pro this year.
Right.
That's the best defense the Bengals will face all year. They faced them 3 times, and then in the last time they played, third time they played, it was when the Ravens were better than they had been all year, and they won the game.
Yeah. So the only other thing I have on the bad is obviously I'm concerned about their offense against our defense. I mean, our defense has looked good and has come through with plays, but they've also they gave up that huge run to Huntley last week. I mean, they do have mental lapses and breakdowns. Also, the touchdown where I think it was Eli Apple bit and you just had a wide open receiver to just walk in. We work so hard on stopping, and then you have one mental lapse and you give up the touchdown. So that concerns me because with Diggs and the different receivers they have, they can put up some points, and Josh Allen is mobile. But that's just on the bad. I have other things to say about those same players on the good, but that's what I have on the what I'm not feeling good about. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So Isaiah McKenzie, looks like he's going to be good to go. I don't think he was in the injury report, was he?
Isaiah McKenzie
Because he didn't play against
report,
Miami.
but he's full practice Tuesday and Wednesday, or Wednesday.
So he's going to be
Thursday.
back.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to have all their weapons back because I know they had the rookie Khalil Shakir from Boise State play a pretty big role in the postseason against Miami on Sunday. But this is a team that heavily relies on Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis did not have as good of a year as everyone thought he would be when he was kind of the superhero in the divisional game last year against KC, when he scored like 1 billion touchdowns in 2 minutes during that part of the game. But Gabe Davis is a solid number 2. But in terms of weapons, it's Josh Allen playing hero ball, and it's Stephon Diggs, who had 1,600 yards this year, 11 touchdowns, towards top of the league in yards per catch percentage, everything. He's a freak. And the Bengals defense, they've at times they've looked like a team who is missing their number 1 corner. So the Bills looked like the same thing when Trey White was out for 18 games.
Right.
If maybe he was out a little less, but the Bengals have looked like they've missed Awuzie for a while now. Their outside corners are Eli Apple and a rookie, and they still made plays, and they've still, forced turnovers, and they've still been really, really good in the second half. But this is a huge challenge for them. They only had 1 drive against Buffalo, and Joe Burrow was on I think this was his presser yesterday. He was like, you can't really take a whole lot out of the 3 drives, or even not even 3 drives, 2.5 drives from the Monday night game 3 weeks ago. And I kind of agree with him. Now it happened, and we all saw Trey White unable to guard Jamar Chase, forcing him to commit 2 penalties. We already saw Joe Burrow having time in the pocket, getting to multiple reads. Tyler Boyd first touchdown. We saw the Bengals defense force a red zone field goal. We saw that happen. Now, granted, that was in Cincinnati, sellout crowd, biggest crowd ever, blah, 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 blah.
With Kappa.
But it happened. With Kappa. But this is a Bengals team that just has got it done all year through adversity, missing DJ Reader, still missing Awuzie, now down to their 3 linemen. They went on this run with a worse offensive line than what they have now, because they did not have Ted Karras, and their left guard was not as good as Cordell-Volson, because Quentin Spain wasn't good last year at all. He was like probably our best lineman, and he was terrible.
Right.
That's how bad the Bengals offensive line was last year.
That's something about our line last year.
And like Joe Burrow said, these guys have played a lot of football. Now, maybe that's just quarterback speak and defending his guys, but they have played a lot of football. Brian Callahan said today that Jackson Carman's grown up. That's something that as fans and as people who watch all the games, we want to see. We don't want to just see, yeah, he's been working hard. He's repping with the ones now. A offensive coordinator who, by the way, is now getting looks at head coach Brian Callahan, saying that a player that, yes, they know they probably shouldn't have drafted, but guess what? He's grown up. Right. That's something that is certainly good to hear.
Well, that actually transitions really well to my good, because one of the things I wanted to say was Carmen was surprisingly effective when he came in last week. I mean, I didn't expect a lot, but he actually made some plays. There's footage on Twitter. You can look at Zim Master put up some ISO plays on Carmen's blocking, but he actually had his moments. I 100% agree with Callahan in terms of that Jackson Carmen looks like he's taken strides, being kicked to the backup role. He looks like he stepped up a little bit, and Adenijay's been playing better than he did last year. And he got this is a guy who's got all the postseason. He was part of our line last year. So I think with the right scheming, Joe Burrow getting rid of the ball, not holding it too long. We don't have the Queen and Roquan Smith to deal with this week in the Raven defense. So, I mean, I feel pretty good about that. I also feel good about their like I said, they're missing guys in their secondary. So, and I think when we saw, on the Monday night game, the abbreviated Monday night game, they were effective. And then my last thing is the chip on the shoulder of this team and on Joe Burrow for the disrespect in the NFL. I think they're going to use that to their advantage. Obviously, we talked ad nauseum about it. This game should be on a neutral field. If the game had been played, this would be in Cincinnati. We could have just as easily been the two. That was completely dismissed by the owners and the league, which is full disrespect. And this team knows it. They feel it, that that we should have had an opportunity to have this game on a neutral field as well. And we weren't given the same respect that the Bills were given against Kansas City. So I think that works. You put a chip on a bigger chip on Burrow's shoulder. I think that works to our advantage. So those are things I'm feeling good about.
Yeah, you talked about Carmen. Jackson Carmen played 28 snap pass block 28 snaps. 20 of them were pass blocking snaps. He only allowed one pressure. He allowed 6 pressures in the postseason last year out of 21 pass blocking snaps. That's like, I mean, that's like you could bring a college guard and he would do better than that in the postseason at the NFL level. I mean, that was last year. He got benched. I mean, he was so bad in the postseason last year. He got benched. So that's good. I think Adeniji is solid enough at right tackle. I mean, both those guys, their PFF grades in the postseason last year were 19.9 and 4.2. So far this year, Carmen got a 50 for Sunday, and then Adeniji got a 30. So not great. Adeniji played 60 snaps, most on the team. Right. And he got kind of beat up a little bit on the outside. But, first playoff start, or no, actually not. He started in the postseason last year.
Well, of course, this year.
He started in the Super Bowl. But at this point, we're leaving the time where there's excuses for these guys because Adeniji has been on the team for 3 years, and Jackson Carmen was the starter last year and got benched. I mean, it's time to, make or break. It's really make or break for these guys, and this is a huge opportunity for them, as Zach Taylor said countless times this week. It's a big opportunity for both these guys, for Sharping, who, when he signed or when he was claimed, I got the sense that they really, really liked him. He hadn't played since 2019 when he was with Houston,
right?
I kind of got this sense that they liked him, and if he were needed to step up, that he would be able to. And so far, so good. So far, decent. I mean, he got beat up a couple times, but other than the highlight plays, being put on a poster a couple times and being pancaked, he held his own. That's really all we're asking for these guys, is to hold their own. I mean, they're not going to scheme out plays based on the offensive line winning consistently. They're not able to do that. But to keep Burrow somewhat protected is probably all we can ask from them at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's a concern, but then Carmen had like 2 holding penalties on him last week, and one of them was a phantom call. I mean, you think about how much holding went on every play by the offensive line of Baltimore that wasn't called. They called Zeitler late in the game on one call. He basically had his arms around guys the entire game. It was just ignored. And then to call Carmen, one of them was a ticky-tack hold, and the other one was a phantom hold. Because I've gone and looked at that play 3 times, and I still don't know how they threw a flag on Carmen. So, but overall, like I said, you said its grade was what, 50. So, that's a marked improvement. there's wild card elements to this that this is what's going to decide the game. I mean, obviously the emotion of DeMar. The NFL, I get the distinct feeling the NFL wants us to lose this game. I mean, they want the Chiefs and Bills in the AFC Championship. I think they really want one of those teams in the Super Bowl and not us. So hopefully we can use that in our as a chip on our shoulder, like I said, and in our favor. Weather could be an issue this game. There could be wind. We know it's going to be cold. It would be cold in Cincinnati too, but weather's going to be an issue. Possibility for snow, although you said it was only like an inch. But weather could be a factor, and then penalties and turnovers. Which team beats themselves? We can't control the penalties. If the league has a conspiracy and they throw flags, there's not certainly they didn't the penalties weren't our friends in the last game. I mean, they like I said, there was countless holding penalties that weren't called, and then we got two ticky-tack, a ticky-tack and a phantom penalty. So I can't control the refs. This could be one of those games where we're playing the Bills and the guys in the white stripes, and we have to overcome it. That's all you can do.
I don't know about that. But like I will say, yes, the NFL wants us to lose this game. Of course they do. Why else would they already be selling tickets for a neutral site AFC Championship game? Of course the NFL wants us to lose this game. But that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to. And I want to show this optimism, even though I'm kind of scared myself. But I do feel excited and optimistic about this game because I really am trying not to think about the game that we saw 3 weeks ago, because I think that the media is going to talk about it way too much over the next 3 days, and they probably already have. And they're gonna, Damar Hamlin is basically gonna get free advertising for this game. And I hope he's able to show up. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool pregame moment. But I feel like as a collective society, we might need to move on a little bit from this scenario, because it is kind of disturbing, and he is okay, but life does go on. And I think the situation is 3 weeks old, and life goes on, and we need to move on. But that's beside the point. Yes, the NFL wants us to lose this game. But for Josh Allen's gonna commit some turnovers. He's committed 3 turnovers in 3 straight games, and the Bengals have to take advantage of it. Like if they, because I look back to the Super Bowl, and that Jesse Bates interception changed. That was like the first roar that the crowd had at the bar I was watching. That was like, I know, they sacked Stafford on the first drive, and that was a big roar. But then they went down the next drive and scored, and then they went up 10-0. And it was like what's going on here? And then Jesse Bates got that pick when it was 10-3, and then Vernon Hargreaves came on crutches and backed us up, and then they went 3 and out, and it kind of ruined the whole thing. So if they get these big time turnovers that get themselves back in the game, they need to take advantage, and they've done a good job of that this year, taking advantage of turnovers. They didn't do it against Baltimore, I don't think. I don't think. Yeah, no, they didn't. Did they?
Yeah, we had the one interception early.
Did they score a touchdown after that?
I can't remember, but I know we scored. We had 2 scores early, and we're up.
So okay, they did.
And we missed the PAT. We were only up 9.
Yeah, they went up 9-0. Okay, so they did. No, they've done a very good job all year of capitalizing off turnovers. And this Bills defense, if they get backed up, they're gonna give up points. It's Jesse Bates said it really, really interesting. He's like, yeah, I'm excited to go back to playing real football, not just this AFC physical or like a different brand of football. And that's what they're going to be able to do against a Bills team that doesn't have much protection in the back end of the secondary like Baltimore does. They're not able to simulate tons of pressure because they don't have that insurance on the back end of their defense with 3 all-pros and 3 guys making $15 million a year. The Bills are on a third, fourth string safety behind Jordan Poyer, who's also played hurt this year at times.
Right.
They're really, and Tre'Davious White does not look like himself. And their corner 2 is also a rookie. This is not, I don't think this is an elite defense. Some metrics kind of point them to being towards an elite defense because they were that good without Von Miller. But since then, not really. Their pressure rate's pretty low. And
I see them as a middle of the road defense. I see this
is, and my preview for the Ravens game was this is a different type of team. The Ravens are able to take away what the Bengals do best, and they're the only team in the AFC that can do that. No one else can that's in the playoff field anymore. Buffalo can't, and Kansas City can't. They cannot take away what the Bengals like to do best.
Right. I agree.
And that's where the Bengals can win this game, is they can do what they do best. And if they rely on that and they're successful in that, it's going to be tough for Buffalo to keep up,
Yeah.
especially if
No.
Josh Allen's turning over the ball.
And I see this defense more as a middle of the road defense. I don't think we're going to have huge success running the ball just because of our missing 3 offensive linemen. But I do think we're going to be effective passing, provided Burrow gets at. We give Burrow just enough time to get rid of the ball, and maybe we could stretch the field. But that's where this game is going to be won. So let's jump in. Give me your prediction on the game.
So I don't really get the line. Well, I do get it. I don't know if it's hit 6 yet at some places. I know I saw a couple 6s creeping
I saw
up,
5.5 was when
but it's pretty much 5.5. Look, the Bills were favored by 1 in Cincinnati. Most power ratings have it as Bills -2.5 at a neutral site, which means the line is probably right at 5.5 points, especially with bad weather. So it makes sense. But I tweeted this. Let me find it so I can get the exact number. But the Bengals are with Joe Burrow. And I found this yesterday. They are 11-2 against the spread as an underdog of 3 or more, of more than 3 points. 11-2.
Okay.
They've covered 6 consecutive times in this spot, dating back to the Ravens game in October of last year. But granted, they have not been in this spot since the Super Bowl, which they covered the 4.5, didn't win, but they covered. They are 5-7 straight up as an underdog of more than 3 with Joe Burrow. And that's
Right.
really good. 5-7 as an underdog of more than 3 is pretty spectacular. So they love this underdog, or they hate the underdog, but they love being in this spot, if that makes sense. They love being in this spot because they hate it.
Right. Well, that Burrow's comment earlier this week was, we don't feel like an underdog. We never feel like an underdog going into games, but I do think that they take it as a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to add the NFL disrespect on their shoulder as a chip. If there's weather, lots of weather. Did you give us a score, or you didn't give us a score?
Oh, my prediction. My prediction. I I told my dad that I was going to pick against us in every playoff game, and I did. I took the Ravens. Thankfully, I was wrong.
Good.
But wait, no, I picked the Bengals on this
You
show.
picked the
last
Bengals
week,
on this
didn't I?
show. You may have
Yeah,
bet
okay.
it, I don't know, but you didn't.
I don't think I've ever picked against the Bengals on this show. It's only because we were talking before the recording that I've only been on the show for 1 loss. That was the Monday night game against Cleveland.
Right.
And I think I picked the Bengals in that game really, really close. But I think we're better than them, man. Like, I really do. And this is not a team that is scared to go on the road. This is a team that loves to go on the road. That as long as the communication is okay, which I think it will be, because it was fine when they went to Kansas City. It was fine when they went to Dallas. They just played bad that game. 24-20 Bengals.
24-20. I've got 2 scores, weather and not weather. I'm looking at what Miami was able to do last week. So I think Miami can put up those kind of points on them. We're a much better offense than Miami. So I've got us 27-24 or 27-23 if there's not a weather issue. And then I've got us as 2016 if there is a weather issue. But I got us winning both games. I think this team can go in there and do this. As long as we don't beat ourselves. Turnovers, penalties, we have to avoid those. But as long as we don't beat ourselves, there's no reason why we can't beat this team. None. Someone will step up. And it's the little things. Think about Bates chasing down Huntley last week and making the tackle, forcing it, and then Pratt was in there also pushing back when Logan Wilson stripped him. It was every guy stepping up on certain plays. They played big in moments, the moments that mattered. And I think that they feel disrespected. And I think that the tickets going on sale this week in Atlanta, I think fuels that. They won't say a lot about it, but they know that this game should be on a neutral field, and it's not. So they're going to go in with attitude. I absolutely think that. And that's what I'm hoping for, that we're doing a championship preview next week. So.
Yes, sir. And let me say one last thing, because on Twitter with the whole neutral site argument, I think it's been kind of fragile. Because yes, it's very obvious the Bengals and Bills played the same amount of games, and the Chiefs and the Bills did not. And that was the NFL's main reasoning for giving the Chiefs Bills a neutral site and not us and not the Bills and us, is because we played the same amount of games. But let me ask you this question. It's not a question. There's a reason why they make the first place teams play each other every single year. It's because those games normally have pretty big significance to the year-end standings. Oh, Monday night game, sold out crowd, huge environment. Oh, and yeah, if you win this game, you're the 2 seed. No big deal, right? If the Bills win this game, yeah, they're the 1 seed. No big deal, right? It's like this game actually mattered a lot, and you just took it away. I don't give a fuck if both teams played 9 games.
Right.
Like that game mattered. That game was, I forget what website, but they ranked the games remaining in the season. This was in like week 15. So
Right.
about 2 weeks before the Bengals Bills game. And they ranked which games mattered most for the most important seeds. The Bengals Bills was number 1.
Of course.
It was the most important game probably in the entire season.
Right.
And it didn't happen. So like that's why the Bengals got fucked, and that's why we're just looking at how many games each team played. Like I get in reality, all games are created equal at the start of the year, but once you get in the year and shit happens and you play for a long time with a guy that's injured, he comes back, and games matter more than others when you're in the season, when you're in the middle of the season.
Hey, if you're doing the neutral field because the Bills didn't have an opportunity to maintain home field, you have to be doing a neutral field for this game, because if we had won that Monday night game, this game would be at Cincinnati. So we had an opportunity to get it. It wasn't given to us, and I don't care that they played the same number of games. The NFL was not consistent in the way they rewarded the Bills and made sure that they weren't hurt, but they did not do the same consideration for us. This team knows it. They go in with attitude. So I was totally remiss in not letting you plug your because I was so excited about getting into this game. Go ahead and plug your website, your podcast, please, because you do a couple podcasts, one on gambling, and you definitely need to be following Jake, and you need to be listening to his podcast. Go give them where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, Jake Circus podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Mostly on all episodes are on Spotify. I try to get a couple of them on YouTube, but most of the listeners are on Spotify. Did a great pod that came out yesterday, recapping Wild Card. Ton of storylines with a good buddy of mine. So definitely check that out. Probably maybe the best one we've done all year. I don't know, but pretty good one. And then the next one will be probably Monday afternoon, recapping the divisional games. Last year, every single divisional round game came down to the final play. So this division, I love divisional round. I think it's the best mix with quantity of games and also the quality of the games. It's
Yes.
the best mix. You're getting 4 really, really good games, 2 each day. It's 6.5 hours to just sit on the couch and watching some good pigskin. But definitely check that out. Follow me on Twitter at Jake Circus. That's SIRKUS. It's a funky last name, but spelled just how it
Right there on the screen,
pronounced,
so you can see
pronounced just how it looks. Definitely not how it sounds. But yeah, it's Twitter, Jake Circus podcast on Spotify. Check out the most recent episode. And yeah, we are hoping for a good day Sunday.
Yeah, I also, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. Hit the alert and help us out with the thumbs up. It definitely helps us out with the analytics at YouTube. So it helps us on the suggestions. So please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you don't already subscribe. Hit that bell. Get the alerts. Typically this is the best weekend of football coming up. Historically,
I really think
best week. So the championship games sometimes aren't close. The Super Bowl sometimes isn't that competitive, but typically this weekend never disappoints. So I really think we're there. And like I said, hey, we're doing a divisional round. We're down to the final 8. We're one of them. Let's get down to the final 4 and be doing a preview next week. So we will put up a recap right after the game, as we usually do. So please look for that. I post all of the links on my Twitter feed, as well as the LA Bengal fan Facebook page. And Jake is tagged in the tweet. So if you go to Twitter, it'll be one of my pinned tweets, the current episode, and you can get to Jake's Twitter account from there. So please do that. And this is it. Big game Sunday. We'll finally get to see Bills Bengals, And hopefully we're doing a show next week. With that, I'm going to say, "Hoo day, everybody. Take care."